Hello everyone, Phreak here with another sort of beginner advice video for Valorant. This is sort of focused on the defender side, and it's what kinds of angles, or in more specific terms, what kind of spots you should play. Because ultimately, your job on defense is to be able to, with only 1 to 3 players, stop up to 5 people coming, and that can be really hard, especially if you're, let's say, a character like Jet, who, well, she's got a smoke, but otherwise you can't stop anything. If you're Sage or Cypher or even someone like Brimstone, you've got some tools that can slow people down, but not all characters can do that. And so you need to be able to stop them or slow them down or do something just by yourself. And so we're going to go over what kinds of angle you should play, what kind of spot you should play. So the first thing is you should have cover from everything but one angle. Now, there's a couple ways to solve this. So one is if your entire team is staffed up and everyone's there. On certain maps, it's not a problem because they're covering the other angle. Like if your teammates are playing A short here, right, and they're going to cover this angle, you know that your opponents can get kind of at most up to here before they get shot at, right? You know, at this point, they should be dying. So you don't have to worry about this spot. You might want to be careful about this spot. Like, let's say if for some reason you wanted to cover Bath from here, this would be a bad spot. You're watching Bath, but you're entirely open, right? There's no reason you should play this spot because you're open. Whereas if you're playing, you know, back here, well, the truck is in the way, you're safe. So the first things first is try to essentially, and the phrase I'm going to use is, isolate yourself into one angle at a time. And you can do the same thing by looking at maybe playing the tower, where if you're going to play Bath, I'm playing back here, right? This wall is in the way, I'm not getting shot. And similarly, if I am going to look at short, this wall is covering me and I'm not going to get shot. Now, this is open, so maybe I should fall back to here so that this wall and this box are covering me. Now the only thing I have to look at is this. You can cheat over even farther, and now it's just here. If you really want to be tricky, you can use this angle, but again, that means that, you know, that ground over there is dangerous to you. You know, you play back here, you can use this box for cover, and you can play this spot. You can look at Bath while covered. If you're playing, you know, maybe here, you're still using the box and the truck and everything else, you know, realistically, this is still covered as well. But if you're playing maybe here, this angle's open, right? This is a bad angle, this is a decent angle. So really try to keep in mind that you don't want to be open to anything else. Now, the one thing we're not talking about is the fact that people could get into lamps, right? If your teammates actually lose on short and they all get shot, there's 1 or 2 people here, they die, and your opponents get control of lamps, well, now they can peek from here, right? They can see up the top of tower, they can see back of sight. Suddenly, your spot needs to change. Maybe you play from back here, so that lamp control, they have to come all the way around to shoot at you. And that's the second part. That is the second part of what kind of angle you want to play, is you need to be able to understand that sometimes you have to fall back. Sometimes you've got to be able to mix it up. So let's say we're playing, I don't know, you're playing this angle, right? You're going to play short from this angle. Now this angle is fine. They have to swing around pretty wide and be very open if they want to play against you. But the problem is you have nowhere to go. The only way to leave is to show yourself to more people. Now that can be okay. You can play here. It's not the worst thing in the world, but realize that by doing this, you're putting yourself in a gigantic risk where you have no way of getting one kill and then getting away. Because it is important that you can get away. So let's say I want to play short and I'm going to play this angle, right? Again, my teammate has control over Bath. That's not a problem. I'm going to look at short and I'm going to kill one person. And then just like that, I have cut off the angle. Whoever's right behind the first person I shoot, they can no longer shoot me, and I can fall back. If my teammate has Bath, maybe I have to control Bath. I can come down here and mix it up, and now I'm in a second spot. I can re-peek if I have to, but notice that I'm playing an angle where I have a piece of cover that I can use to cover me, right? I'm looking at one spot, and I'm looking at no spots, and no spots are looking at me. You can do the same thing from this side. I'm looking at this one angle, I get one shot, and I fall back. We talked about this a little bit in the first video about aiming, where as you throw more bullets down the line, they get less and less accurate. So we're pretty quickly in a spot where I'm not realistically expected to win this second fight, right? I can win the first fight, but then I can fall back and wait for my recoil to recover, and then take another fight where I have good aim, and another fight where I have good aim, and another fight where I have good aim. And just because I'm playing this spot, I take one spot and leave, now they care. And I can now make a choice. I can choose to reaggress. I can, throw a smoke down and come back over. Throw a second one for good measure. Okay, now where am I? I've isolated a different angle. You can do that as a mix-up. But you can also, because you took the one fight and then left, you can come around and now maybe you're playing bath with someone, right? You were playing short. You were covering this angle. But then you come around and you say, hey, I got bath for you. And that means your tower player, maybe they were playing bath, and you say, hey, I got your bath. And now they're playing short. And all these people up here who are really worried about the spot you were in, and we're like, hey, there's someone there, smoke them off, let's block this. Actually, there's someone there now, right? And the person who was coming out bath, maybe they smoked off tower or something. Well, now you're back truck and you're fighting them again. And so those are the kind of two things to primarily keep in mind, is you want to be open to only one angle at a time, and it should be the angle you're fighting. But it's also ideal to be in a spot where you can then be unpredictable. That's the primary advantage of being on defense, is that if we're coming in and attacking, if we're trying to take you out, you might be there, you might be there, you might be playing a weird off angle where you're actually only watching that spot, so that if, I'm not watching here, I'm watching this, so that if you go to clear cubby, I actually see you. Theoretically doable, right? A possible play to make. Maybe you're actually going to play up on the box, and as soon as you hear steps, you peek out. Being unpredictable is your primary strength on defense. You just don't want to be open to everything. Okay, so one more thing about switching spots is it makes locations in the middle of sight very powerful. Like, I think this is actually a pretty good spot in most cases where you can play bath. Again, if it's too many or they throw utility, I can fall off. And I can switch to playing short as well. Now, note that I don't have a lot of space to move, right? I get a couple of steps and I'm open to short. Now, if I hug the box a bit closer, I have a bit more space to work with. But, if I'm playing too far back, they're literally both open. If I'm here, this is obviously a garbage spot. If I go back here, at least this truck's in the way. And then I can kind of strafe like this to switch over. So being able to play different spots is very, very useful, right? There's two more things I want to cover before we're done here. Okay? We talked briefly about being able to get away. This is obviously pretty valuable. Being able to get away is useful. But the two things to really cover are, one, understand what cover actually does for you. So your crosshair is, I think, right around here. I think it comes out of your sternum roughly. That is where your gun and your sight line actually comes from. It is a point in space, and it's like right about here. I'm pretty sure that's like roughly accurate, right? This box is basically head height, and right, my crosshair is there. Roughly accurate. It's about here. But notice that you have a full model, right? You have a head above you, and you have shoulders to the side. And in fact, if you're holding a gun, it comes out ahead of you as well. Which means that if I'm playing, this angle, this is a very bad angle. My gun is absolutely sticking out, and my opponents know that I'm here. The same is true with shoulders. Let's say I'm trying to hide by doing this. I can't see them, right? I cannot see anybody. I guarantee you my left shoulder is sticking out and they can see it. And this idea scales. What I mean by that is I am less obvious here, right, than I am here. Like, this is less bad, but they can still see my shoulder. We can also play this forward. Let's say I'm peeking a very, very small angle. I'm peeking a sliver right here so that I can see them if they come out. My shoulder is still right there, which means theoretically, someone coming around from this side, if they take their time and they're patient, right, and they're not showing up in this corner yet, they can see your shoulder. The basic rule of thumb is the closer you are to cover, the more of your body they can see that you can't. Again, using this box as an example, if I'm, putting my face up against it and I'm looking this way, I guarantee someone from over there can see my shoulder. Almost no matter how much I do it. If I go like this, that guy can see my shoulder. But if I'm farther away from the box, if I'm this far from the box and I'm looking at this angle, there's no easy shoulder peek. That's now gone. That's no longer a possibility for people. So be very, very cognizant of the fact that the closer you are to cover, the more of your body they can see before you can see them. So if you're peeking like this, right, this gives your opponent some level of warning where you literally can't see them, but they know you're coming. Now that can be worth it in some cases, That's another topic for another day. It can be worth peeking like this in certain cases where it's really important to maybe be a little bit surprising, but that's pretty valuable. The other point I want to bring up is how easily you can be removed from the equation. Because ultimately, the way I think it's correct to think of defense is essentially a 2v5 or a 3v5 where you're trying to buy time for your team. And not only are you buying time for your team, your first fight, you have the advantage, right? Because they don't know for sure where you are, but your crosshair is already trained on where their head's going to be. Because your opponents can only ever come from that spot or that spot. There are only two possible locations they can come from. And you can be tower, you can be here in tower, you can be box, you can be cubby, you can be truck, you can be lamps, you can be cubby. You know, like there's a million, you can be up on those boxes or that corner. There's a million spots you can be, only two that they can be. So in your 2v5, you have the advantage. But your opponents have utility, right? Let's say you really love playing tower. You really love the spot because you can watch short, you can watch bath. It's great, it's really valuable. I just got a ping spike, that was exciting. Well, your opponents, right, if they're like Brimstone or if they're really good at Jet, has my ping spikes up, they can smoke you off, right? They can prevent you from being able to do anything. And imagine this is a real smoke. You know, this one has an actual duration. I'm sure I'm missing these now that I can't see anymore. The ping isn't helping. But even if they do this, right? Right, they block you off. Cool, you're useless. And now it's a 5v1. It's not a 5v2 for the offense. You were playing tower. They threw a smoke. It's now a 5v1. Your teammate is screwed. They are absolutely screwed. And obviously, we probably expect it to be a Brimstone or an Omen smoke that does this. But if you're playing tower, you don't have the ability to fall back and be useful. And that can make tower a very, very scary spot to play because you cannot help your teammate. Your teammate is alone 1v5. And imagine your teammate was playing this spot. Imagine your teammate was stuck here, where you smoke off tower, they're playing this angle, they can't get help from you, they can't get away, this person is always dying, and your opponents have the sight. And this is what's valuable about playing something like this, where if they smoke me off, I can fall back, get to back truck, and I'm playing this angle. I can, if I really want, I can boost up here and play this angle, right? There's things that I can do. So I would say in general, though playing places like this is fine, and it's completely acceptable in many cases, having the ability to take utility and still be useful is really, really effective. So that's my basic rundown on playing angles in a game like Valorant. I hope this is useful. Let me know if it's too long-winded. If there's more detail you want, let me know. I'd love to do more of this content. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.